Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the Throne 2. That's right, it has finally arrived and this event looks super sick for our 16 players. You're going to have Spargo, Zachary, Mars, and Dryby in Group 1. Light, MK Leo, Mudace, and Tilde in Group 2, Tweak, Cola, Candle, and Remu in Group 3, and Shattuck, Hurt Riddles, Chunky Kong in Group 4. And let's just get right into it. Really quickly, forgot to shout out Wiz for making this graphic. He makes a ton of really cool graphics for Smash in general, so be sure to follow him if you aren't already. And now let's get into the video. Starting off with Pool 1, you're going to have Spargo, Zachary, Mars, and Dryby. And let's start off with Dryby here. I believe in Dryby to break the curse, the Pichu curse. For anyone that doesn't know, for every Pichu player that's been invited or rather voted into an event like this, they have yet to take a game. Now, I think Dryby will take a game, but I don't think that he'll be taking a set in his group. He's got a pretty tough group, to be fair. I mean, they're all tough, but Mars, Zachary, Spargo, those are all extremely difficult opponents. I think the most likely one would probably be against Mars. I think Pichu does decent there, but I also think Mars is just really good against the Rats, so I'm not too worried about that for him. So, Dryby, I do think he's going to get last in this pool, but I believe in him to break the curse. And let's talk about the other three now. Now, I am going to definitely have Spargo as our first seed, and I would have had him as our first seed even if he hadn't played against Zachary and Mars recently, but he has, and he has beaten them both, so that's really all the evidence I need. And this really comes down to who is going to win between Zachary and Mars, and I honestly don't know. I'm just assuming that Zachary is going to be playing Pit here, though he could bring out Joker or Rob, but I think Mars does pretty well into Rob, as well as Zero Suit doing well into Rob, and he's got a ton of experience versus Joker, so presumably he should be fine there. And in case you can't tell where I'm going with this one, I am going to be picking Mars to win this, because if it's Zero Suit versus Pit, I would just favor Zero Suit in that matchup. Now, I'm by no means a matchup expert for Pit. I'm not even close to a matchup expert for Pit, but I just think that mobility of ZSS would be really hard for him to navigate. So I am going to be saying that Mars takes that upset right there, but that is largely relying on Zachary playing the Pit. I think if he plays the Joker or the Rob, it's going to be a little bit harder. Definitely still possible for Mars, though he has been playing well recently, but an uphill battle for sure. On to Pool 2 with Light, Leo, Mudace, and Tilde. I should also add that these head-to-heads are only from 2023 and 2024, so that's why some of these aren't more extensive. But starting off with Tilde, I actually expect him to be the second seed of our pool. I think he is going to make that upset over Light. He's beaten Light in their only encounters that they haven't played in quite some time, but I also think Falco does really well into Fox, the combo game, and mainly the edge guarding is just super good for Falco. So yeah, I think Tilde should pull off that upset over Light. The only thing that's really in Light's favor here is the fact that he's a top 10 player in the world, which is, you know, definitely a big boon in his favor, but it is going to be an uphill battle for him, absolutely. And I also think Tilde is going to pull off this upset over Mudace. If you look at Mudace's Twitter recently, he says that he hasn't been feeling super well just with his hands failing him, which is definitely super unfortunate, but you are going to need to microspace versus Tilde. He is going to be overshooting a lot versus you. He's a very committal player, and if you aren't on point as Mudace here, you are just going to lose to Tilde. So assuming Mudace isn't playing at like 1000%, I just think Tilde is going to take this one home, and I do think that MK Leo is going to be your victor over Tilde, just for the simple fact that Joker edgeguarding Falco sounds really good for Joker, but this should be probably the closest set for Tilde of this little bracket here, and I do think he has a very legitimate chance of being the first seed, but I just don't have him favored versus Leo straight up, and I do have Leo actually as my first seed. He's got a 50-50 here versus Light, which is pretty difficult to kind of discern who is going to win that one, but you had Light winning their last encounter, and you had Leo winning the one before that, so presumably it is Leo's turn to win this one. And then for MK Leo and Mudace, even though the record isn't in his favor overall, of their recent encounters, he has been a lot more successful, so I would expect him to win that one. And finally, you're going to have Light versus Mudace, and I would just definitely expect Light to win that one. I think the only time Mudace was ever able to beat Light was in the winners finals there of Genesis, and since then Light's just had like a super dominant head to it. I also think Fox just overwhelms Peach is really hard to microspace, especially against a player of Light's caliber. So yeah, I got Joker, or rather Leo, as the first seed, Tilde as the second seed, Light as the third seed, and Mudace as the fourth seed. Next up is Pool 3, and I'm going to be pretty boring with this pool because I just think it's going to go exactly as it's seeded. For Tweak as our first seed, he's won his only encounter versus Cola recently. Now, low-key, not even low-key, high-key Cola should have won that set, but he didn't win that set. And if they play again, I would expect Tweak to win, just considering that I do favor Diddy Kong in that matchup, and he's also coming into this event with a ton of momentum off that win at Let's Make Moves Miami, so he should be able to get that one. It is going to be his hardest matchup of the pool, of course. Then you're going to have Candle. Now, I think Olimar does decent against Diddy Kong. In fact, I could even see that being slightly in Olimar's favor, but I just think Tweak's experience in the matchup is going to get him through here. Like, he's beaten Shootone before. If you could beat Shootone's Olimar, you could beat any Olimar at any point, and that's literally just like the faith that I'm giving Tweak here. But Candle is very good. It is a possibility for an upset right there. And then finally, you'd have Tweak versus Rimu, and I would just favor Tweak there. I actually think Diddy Kong beats Minmin, which is not something that I say a lot, but Monkey Flip and Banana just allow you to actually bully the character, get in her face, and once Diddy Kong is on top of Minmin, it's basically impossible for her to get him off. And speaking of players that are really hard to get off you when they're on you, Cola is the next player we got to talk about, and I would also favor Cola versus Rimu, especially considering that he's beaten Toramigi in their only encounter. Like, if you could beat Toramigi the first time that you play, you're good against any other Minmin player in the world. I'm pretty confident in that, and he should be fine versus Candle as well. I don't know the intricacies of the Olimar versus Roy matchup, but I would expect Roy to do pretty well. You could definitely swat the Pikmin out of midair, and you would just destroy Olimar. Sidey's got to be killing it like 40-50% at the ledge there, so I would expect him to win that one. And then finally, it'd be between Candle and Rimu, and I think Candle's just barely going to edge that one out just because Olimar's recovery is like really, really good. You have so much movement off stage and variety of where you're actually able to go with the up B. It's just so much creativity there, and it's really hard to actually pinpoint that specific spot of where Olimar is going to be as Minmin. I also think the Pikmin throw could be really annoying for Minmin, and Candle's gonna have to play that one extremely well because the second you get hit as Olimar, you're gonna die, but I think they're gonna be able to navigate those long arms well enough to get the dub. And we have our pool number 4, the final one, with Shattuck, Hurt, Riddles, and Chunky Kong. And I know I said it was between pool 2 and pool 4, which one is the hardest. Between recording that, I have decided that pool 4 is the hardest pool. Starting off with Chunky Kong, who I do think is going to make an upset at this event over Hurt, because DK's advantage state is already really strong, but Snake's disadvantage state is like perfectly comboed into how DK wants to combo you. Cypher could not get a more free back air. That up air is going to be amazing for keeping him in the air as well. And Donkey Kong is one of the few characters in the game that actually benefits from trading with Snake because he is going to have the weight advantage. So it's okay for DK to go up there and trade with the grenade because not only is he getting the hit of up air, back air, or whatever, but he's also getting the grenade explosion, and that's just way into his favor. Now, overall, I would still say the matchup is just even because you get hit by every single grenade still, and all of Snake's hitboxes clip you, and recovering is a nightmare. But if you are able to get that one initial hit on Hurt, which I am very confident Chunky Kong will be able to, you could just kill him in one advantage. Like, that's how bad it is for Snake. So I think Chunky Kong is going to pull off that upset right there. And I think Hurt's going to pull off an upset of his own over Shattuck, just because Snake versus Corn, not a great matchup for Corn. And considering these guys have never played before and they're very close skill-wise, I'm just going to be going with the better matchup to win this one. And the better matchup here is definitely going to be Snake. But I also am going to have Hurt losing to Riddles. So he beats Shattuck, but I think he loses to Riddles and Chunky Kong. And it's probably going to be the Kazuya out of Riddles in that specific matchup against Hurt, or it should be the Kazuya out of Riddles, just because straight up Hurt is not very good against Kazuya. And I don't think that's an amazing matchup for Snake, just because Kazuya is able to like actually get in your zone. Snake doesn't have the best mobility in terms of just how far he's actually able to move. The micro movement is crazy, but that's a different discussion. But Kazuya breaks that zone really easily. He kind of disrupts what you're doing, and then of course he kills you in one hit, which is never fun, especially for a character like Snake where longevity is supposed to be his whole kind of gimmick. So I do think that Hurt would lose to Riddles, and then our final matchup would be between Riddles and Shattuck. I guess Chunky Kong as well, but I should say this right now. I do think that Chunky Kong would likely lose to both Riddles and Shattuck, especially Shattuck. I think Corn DK is just like really, really tough for Donkey Kong, but I also think that Kazuya / Terry DK isn't that much better for DK either. So I do think Chunky Kong should get this upset over Hurt, but I still think he's going to be the 4th seed. I think Hurt's going to be the 3rd seed, and I realize I never said who I actually think is going to win between Shattuck and Riddles. I kind of just brought it up, but I do think that Shattuck should win this one. As you can see, it's a 3-1 head-to-head for Shattuck, so overall it has been very dominant in his favor, and matchup-wise, it's just a difficult one for Corn. So Riddles as the 2nd seed and Shattuck as the 1st seed. And now we're on the Gauntlet phase. If you don't know how the Gauntlet phase works, you're going to have 4 people, 1 from each pool. The 1st seed just moves on automatically to the winner's side. The 4th and the 3rd seed fight each other. Winner of that fights the 2nd seed, and winner of that moves on to the winner's side. Everyone else starting in losers. Pretty easy to understand. Our first matchup is going to be Candle versus Mutace, and I would expect Mutace to win this one. If I had to give it to either character, I would slightly give it to Peach, just because she is going to be a little bit heavier than Olimar while having a similar damage output. Plus, microspacing is always going to be something that's really nice for Peach. And also, player versus player, Mutace and Candle have never played before. And even with Mutace maybe not firing at 1,000%, I would still expect Mutace to win. And I would also expect Mutace to win versus Riddles. They've played 4 times before, and Mudace has come out on top in 3 of those encounters, and it's almost 100% going to be Terry out of Riddles in this situation, just because Peach is really good against Kazu. You're able to microspace like nothing against that character. He's just super slow, but Riddles, or rather Terry, has a pretty big burst range with things like side B and reverse side B, so it's a lot more difficult to just pull that off. But usually Mudace pulls it off. Isn't it possible for Riddles to pull off the upset? No, I don't think so, but Mudace should be favored. Gauntlet 2 is going to have Mars, Rimu, and Hurt. And for Rimu Hurt, I would 1000% expect Hurt to win that one. Not only does he have an 100% win rate against Rimu himself, but he's also got a really good record against Storm Meaty. Despite that matchup being bad, Hurt has put so much time into it. And it's also a matchup where Snake has a clear win condition because Minmin's recovery is also bad, and Hurt is really good at exploiting that. So then we would finally get Hurt versus Mars. I really need the set to happen. And if it does happen, I would be pretty confident that Mars would come out on top. I just think Mars is one of, if not the best player in the entire world against Snake, and when you're on a character like Zero Suit as well, who's one of the most precise characters in the game, you're able to dance around Snake perfectly. You're able to dance around grenade hitboxes perfectly. Basically, Mars just has like the perfect solution to Snake as a character, not only because he as a player is the perfect solution, but also the tool that he has just does such a good job against Snake when you know how to fully exploit him. Pool 3 is going to have Chunky Kong, Zachary, and Tilde. And for Chunky Kong, Zachary, I would expect Zachary to come out on top here just because I can't foresee Zachary losing to a Donkey Kong player. But to Chunky Kong's credit, he is no just Donkey Kong player. He is the next level with this character. But between Rob, Joker, and also just Pit, I don't think Zachary is going to be struggling too much there against the DK. And against Tilde, I would also expect Zachary to come out on top. Now, he doesn't have a winning record against Matsunabe, but he's won their last encounter, and he has a really nice winning record against Masa, so he should be comfortable in that matchup. And I also think that's a match where Pit does pretty decent. You're definitely able to edgeguard Falco. Your advantage state is pretty strong. Your disjoints are going to be especially impactful because Falco is going to be hitting with his face, and if that doesn't work out, he could just switch it to the Joker, maybe Rob, though I wouldn't recommend going Rob. I would stick with either Joker or Pit, but regardless of the character, I think Zachary's going to come out on top. And our final gauntlet is going to have Cola, Light, and Dry B. And for Dry B, this is probably the best opponent of the entire tournament that he could get. It's either that, Chunky Kong, or maybe Rimu as well. But Fox Pichu is miserable for Fox. One of the character's worst matchups. You can edgeguard super easily, you combo super easily. Everything you do is just super easy against Fox. But I still think Light's going to win because he's really good against the Rats. He's put a lot of time into that matchup because it is such a sour spot for his character that at this point he's just like one of the best players in the world against them. And Pichu is just such a Light character that after one Light interaction, and I quite literally mean one, you are in threat of Nair up smash, down air up smash. So I would expect Light to win this one, but Drivey, he's definitely got a shot here, and he should at the very least take a game. And then you're gonna have Cola versus Light, and I would expect Cola actually to win this one, and I don't really have a reasoning for that. Cola and Light have been going back and forth 50-50 every single time these guys plays, and they have both been killing it recently. But you have Light performing really well at the last event that he goes to. Cola doesn't do as well there. I just feel like they're going to switch at the throne and Cola's going to pop off. And we have arrived at the main bracket. This graphic, as always, was made with the lovely ICOOKIEMONSTERZ. Their link will be down below, so be sure to check them out and sub while you're down there. And I'm pretty sure I got this to accurately feed from the Gauntlet phase. It may be a little bit more iffy in the loser side, but I'm pretty sure the winner side is at the very least right here. And our first matchup in the winner side is going to be Spargo versus Mudace. And I would expect Spargo to take that one. Historically, Mudace is one of the best players in the world against Spargo, but in their more recent encounters, Spargo has been a lot more successful. And if they were to play again, I honestly wouldn't be super surprised if you saw Spargo going Aegis there instead of Cloud, even though he has had success in the past with Cloud. I just think it's a lot harder to microspace against Mithra specifically just because of how quick and how big her sword is. So regardless of the character that Spargo plays, though, Cloud or Aegis, I would favor him there up against Mudace. Though Mudace always has a chance against Spargo. Mudace is one of those players where he legitimately always has a chance against everyone just because he hits you so hard and his neutral so clean if he's playing well, of course. Then you're going to have Shattuck versus Cola, and I would expect Shattuck to win this one. I think this matchup is pretty difficult for Roy just because that Corn sword makes Cola's sword, or rather Roy's sword, feel like he basically doesn't have a sword, and he effectively doesn't, since because you're only going to really get value from it when you're hitting that sweet spot, so you have to play it like a brawler against that Corn sword. It's just really difficult. Now, you are going to be a lot faster than Corn. Mobility is definitely still going to be on your side, and this is by no means unwinnable for Cola. This should be an extremely competitive set. He's beaten Shattuck before, but of a majority of their encounters, Shattuck comes out on top, and I do think that Corn is slightly favored in that matchup. Really quick, I just thought I should point out, you have Cola winning their last encounter, but prior to that, you had Shattuck winning 4 in a row. So I definitely still favor Shattuck here, but you do have Cola winning their last one. Then you're going to have MK Leo versus Mars. And this is supposed to happen at Luminosity Makes Moves Miami, but you had Mars getting upset, actually. And it better actually happen at this event. I need to see this set. And there's a lot of things that we have to consider. They haven't played in quite some time. And in the past, it was usually Leo coming out on top, though it was very back and forth. Both of their characters received some pretty significant nerfs, but I would say that ZSS got hit harder by the nerf hammer. And also just form-wise, these last couple months, I would definitely say Leo is better. So all of those things just slightly being in Leo's favor is going to give it to him overall. But I think the set should be very competitive. It should be close, and it should be a banger if it happens. It better happen. Then you're going to have Tweak versus Zachary, and this is one of the more interesting head-to-heads I've honestly just seen in a really long time, because you have Zachary with an 100% win rate on Tweak. He's beaten him in their only 3 encounters, but as you see, it's been a very long time since they played, and more importantly, the Pit and the Diddy Kong have never played against each other. And because Diddy Kong is on Tweak's roster, I do think that he should win this. Even though none of his other characters could win it before, Diddy just does really well into Zachary's roster. Does super good into Joker. I think Diddy, or rather Tweak, is amazing against Rob. Zomba specifically just gives him trouble, but I also think Diddy does decent in that matchup. And then Pit, I can't be like 1000% certain that's winning for Diddy Kong, but considering that Diddy does really well against a majority of these spacing sword characters in this game, I would also expect him to do pretty well against Pit. I don't think that's going to be a sour spot for him. Maybe the arrows could be a little bit scary against the recovery, but Zachary is going to need to be a Japanese sniper in order to actually pull those off. So I'm going to say the trick of Diddy Kong is going to get this dub for Tweak and get him his first win over Zachary. On to the loser side, starting off with Rimu versus Tilde, and I do think that Tilde is going to win this one. Rimu has a very clear win condition in the edge guard, but that's his only clear win condition. I don't think everything else I would favor Tilde. Aggression, I would absolutely favor Tilde. Just the prowess that he has when he is hitting you, his advantage state is going to be a lot stronger than Rimu's, in my opinion, and he also has the option of edge guarding Min Min because of that lackluster recovery. So I think Tilde should win that one, though he has to be very careful when he's off stage, because Rimu will blow him up if he's not careful. Then you're going to have Chunky Kong versus Riddles. We kind of already talked about this, but I do think that Riddles is going to win that one. It's more likely going to be the Terry out of Chunky or out of Riddles, because I just think the advantage state is a lot less scary for Terry when you're talking about Donkey Kong here. You get back air as Kazi against DK, you might actually just die. Against Terry, you at least have a lot more options to recover, and your damage output isn't going to be something that you need to worry about on a character like Donkey Kong. Then you're going to have Dryby versus her, and I would definitely expect her to win this one. You just have Pichu being so light and damaging himself that every single time he takes a trade, it's like twice as good for Snake as it is against most characters. He explodes to it up to like 70%. You can exploit Snake in the disadvantage, yes, but the only real moves that you have to hit him out of Cypher are things like down air, like down B potentially if you hit the juicy hitbox of it. Maybe the spiking hitbox actually pulls him out, I don't know, but it's not a great match for Pichu. He can struggle to kill, and he kills really, really early, and I just don't think that Dryby is going to be able to handle that. Then you're going to have Candle versus her as our final one, and I would expect Light, I should say Candle versus Light as our final one, and I would expect Light to come out on top here, but I do think Candle has a very real chance of pulling off the upset. Candle's one of those players that honestly always has a chance of pulling off the upset. They're just very good, but especially on a character like Almar with the damage output being as high as it is, on a Light character like Fox that explodes off stage, that could definitely be something that Candle can exploit, but Light is also going to be playing against a Light character that he's going to need to win 1 or 2 interactions against before he starts looking for that confirmed. So even though I think this matchup is going to be a little bit scary for Light, he should be able to close it out. Really quickly, I switched Light Candle and Rimu Tilde just so no players that play each other in the pools phase run into each other again, because that makes more sense in my opinion of how a bracket would actually work, and hopefully this is how it actually works, but whatever. You're gonna have Zachary Light as our first losers round 2 matchup, and I would expect Zachary to win this one because I think Pit would actually do pretty decent against Fox. You know, you've got a lot of ways to edge guard him, your advantage state's gonna be pretty strong, you are going to have a sword as well, so that initial one is definitely going to matter. It's still going to be difficult for Zachary just because Light is such an incredibly quick player, but I think Zachary has the experience and the veteran presence to know how to deal with that pressure from Light, where he shouldn't be overwhelmed. He's going to be composed enough to actually be able to get those offstage interactions and secure himself that set. Then you're going to have Mars versus Riddles, and I do think that Riddles is going to win this one. Of their only recent sets, I believe it was at LSI, the first one, you do have Riddles winning that one, and I think Zero Suit does pretty good into Kazuya just because you're able to out-mobility that character super hard. I would say it's probably an even matchup, maybe slightly ZSS favored, but but I actually think it's going to be the Terry out of Riddles here, and I don't think that Terry is a great matchup for Zero Suit Samus just because it's a lot harder to out-mobility Terry, and every single time Terry lands his hit on you, it doesn't matter what, you're taking 40-50%, and he just hits way harder than Zero Suit Samus. So does Kazuya, of course, but you actually have a little bit more mobility to keep up with ZSS in that matchup. So if it's the Terry out of Riddles, I definitely think he's going to win it. If it's the Kazuya out of Riddles, I think Mars has a better chance, but he probably still wins. Next up is going to be Hurt versus Cola, and I do think that Hurt is going to win this one, basically just off their set at Riptide, where you had Hurt winning it pretty convincingly, and I honestly wouldn't be super surprised if you had Cola maybe trying a different character this time around. Maybe he goes Cloud, maybe he goes Aegis. I think those are better choices into Snake than Roy, but Roy is by no means a bad choice into Snake. In fact, I would say he is a good choice into Snake. He's a very fast character, super hard to get him off you, and if you're hitting those Sour Spot or rather Sweet Spot hitboxes, it doesn't matter that Snake's on his Cypher, he is going to get blown up. So I think Cola can win this, but based off what I've seen, I think Hurt will win it. And then you're going to have Mudace versus Tilde as our final top 8 qualifier. And of all of the things that I've talked about in this video, this is probably the one that I'm the least confident on. I honestly have no idea who is going to win this one. They've never played against each other. You do have Tilde with a decent record against Ling. I think it's like 3-1 or something like that. So he is good against Peach, and that is going to be slightly giving it to him over the edge. But obviously there's other factors as well. The fact that Laser just exists for Falco, I think is really annoying against Peach because it kind of just disrupts your flow. You're also going to have Tilde just being a very overshooting player. I think I talked about this maybe in the Gauntlet phase. I honestly can't remember. I feel like I'm having deja vu with this matchup here, but I do think that Tilde is going to win this one. I figured it out. It wasn't deja vu. I talked about it in the pools phase, not the Gauntlet phase. But moving on to the winner side, you got Spargo versus Shattuck as our first matchup in this top 8. And I do think that Spargo should win this one. I've had this conversation so many times before that I'm just going to be very blunt. When it's a Sword Ditto, I favor Spargo against everyone in the world. And that's it. The discussion ends. I would just expect him to be the fundamentally better player. Can Shattuck win? Yes, he's done it before. Other Sword players have also beaten Spargo, but he probably won't win. Then you're going to have MKLeo versus Tweak, and I would expect Tweak to win this one. Until Leo actually beats Tweak, you just have to pick Tweak to win it. He's just got such a solid streak on him right now, but I think Leo has a very real chance against Tweak. The last time they played, I think it was at like LMBM at this point. It's been so long, but Leo looked extremely competitive in that set. It absolutely could have gone into his favor, despite the matchup still being extremely difficult for Joker. So he's clearly put a lot of time and effort into this encounter versus Tweak. He should look good in this set, but until I see him actually come out on top, I'm just going to assume that Tweak wins it, because Tweak is also coming to this event extremely hot. Like, you got to consider that as well. In the loser side, you're going to have Zachary versus Riddles, and I think Riddles is going to win this one for the simple fact that I don't think Zachary has ever played against like a super top-level Terry before. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but the only top-level Terry I can think of in Japan is Aegis, and he hasn't played against Aegis. At least I don't think he's ever played against Aegis, so I just don't think Zachary is going to be ready for what this character can do. And even if he is, you do have Kazuya still as a choice for Riddles, but I think if he is forced onto the Kazuya, Zachary is probably going to win that one. His characters do pretty good into Kazuya, and in the contrast, I don't think any of Zachary's characters do really well into Terry. So I think Riddles should have that one in the bag if the Terry can pull through. Then you're going to have Hurt versus Tilde. Now, I think Tilde has a very real chance in this matchup. He's just a player that I think would be really good against Snake. I think he has got pretty good item control, and I think Falco does pretty good against Snake. You obviously have a Frameland Reflector, which is huge. Your advantage stays really good. That spike is super strong, but I'm still going to be going with Hurt to win this one just because he's won his only encounter versus Matsunabe, and he's won his only encounter versus Masa. Historically, Hurt very good against the top level Falcos, so I am going to be picking him to win over Tilde, but this should be like a 50-50 right down the middle, extremely close set that Tilde could absolutely win. In losers quarters, you're going to have Riddles versus Shattuck and MKLeo versus Hurt. For Riddles Shattuck, I already talked about this. It's just a really difficult matchup for the FGC characters up against Corrin, and Shattuck has been really good in all of their recent encounters. Then you're going to have MKLeo versus Hurt. Now, you do have Hurt winning their only encounter at, I think it was port priority or something. Doesn't matter. It was a while ago at this point, but I am still going to be going with Leo to win this one because I think Leo's really good against Snake, and I think Joker is really good against Snake. Gun is just like so annoying. That move is literally the antithesis of Snake as a character, and especially when you have Arsene online, you are going to be bullying that character in the disadvantage. So Leo's going to need to play this one extremely well. His advantage state is going to need to be on point, but if it is, I don't see why he shouldn't take it home. And we've got our top 4, Spargo, Tweak in the winner side, and Shattuck, Leo in the loser side. Starting off with Spargo versus Tweak, and you actually have Spargo winning their only recent encounter, which happened at Cirque du CFL, but I'm still going to be going with Tweak to win this one. There's two major reasons. The first one's going to be something I've already mentioned before, which is just the momentum that Tweak has coming into this weekend, which I think is something that is really, really important. Like, you cannot understate it. If you're feeling confident, you just won, you were just the best player in the world, there's no reason that you can't be the best player in the world this weekend as well. And if Tweak has that mindset, I think that's going to be a massive mental boost for him. Now, Spargo should also have that mindset of I'm the best player in the world, because he actually is right now, but the difference there is that Diddy Kong actually beats Cloud, and that is actually going to be the thing that just barely pulls it over the line. This is just such a close head-to-head between these two guys. I know Spargo's won their only recent encounter, but I think if they were to play more, it would be like a 50-50 dead even though it is slightly in Tweak's favor matchup-wise. I'd say skill-wise, it is slightly in Spargo's favor, and they just balance out to like a perfect 50-50. Really hope this set happens. Don't really know how it's going to unfold, but I'm going to be going with Tweak to win it. Then you're going to have Shattuck, MK, Leo in the loser side. This one's also really interesting because they've only played once before, and it does go into Shattuck's favor, but it was Byleth versus Korn, and it's not going to be Byleth versus Korn. It's going to be Joker versus Korn here, and I think Joker does really well into Korn. You're able to avoid her just because of your mobility. You just have like a lot more mobility than Korn does straight up. Gun also definitely helps with that. You just dance circles around her in the neutral, and that big sword really isn't that big of a deal because Gun outranges it, and you're able to whiff punish it because of Joker's amazing speed. So Leo should win that. In the losers finals, you're going to have Spargo versus MK Leo, and you do have Leo winning their last encounter at LSI 2. Now, I don't think that was Spargo's best recent tournament. He got second place in it though, so obviously he was playing well, but I don't think that was the best he could have been playing, and I think if both guys are firing at 100%, I would expect Spargo to come out on top, and I'm going to assume that they're both firing at 100% because you made it to the top 3 at the throne. You got to be playing pretty good, and in the grand finals, you get a run back of Tweak versus Spargo, and I actually think Spargo is just going to win in the grand finals. I know this is something that I've like never done before, having the guy lose in winners and then actually win the thing, but Spargo is going to get the back-to-back. He's going to be the throne champion, the 2-time, and with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the sport. It's been absolutely unreal. As like, if there's anything I left out, got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub while you're down there, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.